Something is running your life, and it is not your conscious mind. Let me say that again, because most people will hear it, nod politely, and then go right back to believing they are in control. Something is operating beneath every decision you make, every reaction you have, every dollar you earn or fail to earn, every relationship you build or destroy, and you did not choose it. You did not design it. In most cases, you do not even know it exists, and yet it governs everything. When I was a young man in Ireland studying for the priesthood, I believed, as most earnest young people believe, that the quality of my life was determined by the quality of my effort. Work harder. Pray more fervently. Discipline the flesh. Strengthen the will. That was the formula I had been given, and I followed it with everything I had. And for a time it appeared to work. My grades were excellent. My conduct was impeccable. My superiors praised me. From the outside, I looked like a man building something magnificent. But inside I was crumbling. There was a war being fought behind my ribs that no amount of discipline could win. Every morning I would resolve to be confident, and by noon, the old familiar dread would return. Every night I would pray for peace. And by 3 in the morning, I would be awake, staring at the ceiling, suffocated by a nameless anxiety that had been following me since childhood. The harder I tried to change, the more violently my inner world resisted. And one evening, I will never forget this, I was sitting alone in the seminary library. The other students had gone to vespers. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts more clearly than you want to. And a question dropped into my mind with the weight of a stone falling into still water. What if the problem is not that you are weak? What if the problem is that you are building your entire life on a foundation you never inspected? That question changed the trajectory of my existence, not because it was clever, but because it was true. I had spent years trying to renovate the upper floors of a building whose foundation was fractured. More effort, more discipline, more willpower, all of it was like hanging beautiful curtains in a house with a cracked basement. The curtains looked lovely. The house was still sinking. You are here because something in your life is not working the way it should. Maybe it is your finances. Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is a relationship that keeps circling the same drain no matter how many conversations you have or books you read. Maybe it is something harder to name, a persistent feeling that you are living below your own potential, that the life you are actually living is a dim, muted version of the life you were meant to live. And you have tried to fix it. My God, you have tried. You have read the books. You have attended the seminars. You have made the vision boards and written the affirmations and woken up at 5 in the morning and powered through another round of self-improvement. And some of it helped for a while. But then the old patterns crept back in, didn't they? The old feelings returned. The old results reasserted themselves. And you started to wonder if perhaps there was something fundamentally wrong with you, some flaw in your character that made you incapable of lasting change. There is nothing wrong with you. Let me be absolutely clear about that. There is nothing broken in your spirit, nothing defective in your soul, nothing irreparably damaged in your being. What is happening is far simpler and far more fixable than you have been led to believe. You are running on a program you did not write. Your subconscious mind, that vast, powerful, tireless engine that operates below the surface of your awareness, is executing a set of instructions that were installed in you before you had the capacity to evaluate them, before you could think critically, before you could say no, before you understood what a belief even was. Beliefs were being planted in you like seeds in dark soil. And those seeds grew. They grew into the invisible architecture of your entire life. Your income, it is not determined by your talent or your education. It is determined by your subconscious set point, the amount of money your deeper mind believes you deserve and can handle. Your relationships, They are not the product of luck or chemistry. They are the outward expression of the relationship you have with yourself at the subconscious level. Your health, your habits, your emotional baseline, your default reaction to stress, all of it is being generated by a program that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without your conscious permission. This is not philosophy. This is not positive thinking. This is the mechanics of how your mind actually operates. And here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. This is the most liberating truth you will ever encounter. Because if your life is the product of a program, then your life can be changed by changing the program. You do not need more willpower. You do not need another strategy. You do not need to become a different person. You need to rewrite the instructions that your subconscious mind is faithfully executing. That is what we are going to do over the next 80 minutes. Not talk about change, not theorize about potential, not give you another list of tips that fade by Thursday. We are going to go into the control room of your mind together. And we are going to restructure the baseline reality from which your entire life is generated. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, not to me, but to yourself. Are you ready to stop managing your symptoms and start addressing the cause? Are you ready to stop renovating the upper floors and finally go down into the basement and repair the foundation? Good. Then stay with me, because what comes next will change how you understand yourself, your past, and your future. The recording that runs you before you were 5 years old, the most important chapter of your life had already been written, and you were not the author. Think about that for a moment. The beliefs that shape your financial reality, your emotional patterns, your sense of what you deserve, your tolerance for joy, your reflexive response to conflict, the overwhelming majority of these were installed in your subconscious mind during the first 5 to 7 years of your life. Installed, not chosen, not evaluated, not accepted after careful consideration. Installed the way software is installed on a new computer, directly, without filters, without firewalls, without the ability to click decline. There is a reason for this, and it is not cruel. It is biological. A child's brain operates primarily in theta and delta brainwave states, the same states that a hypnotherapist works to induce in an adult. A child is, in the most literal neurological sense, in a state of hypnosis for the first several years of life. Everything that happens around that child, every word spoken, every emotion expressed, every dynamic witnessed, goes directly into the subconscious mind without passing through the critical filter that adults develop later. This is how nature designed us. A young child needs to absorb the rules of their environment rapidly, without questioning each one. Is fire dangerous? Yes. Absorb that immediately. Is this food safe to eat? Let me watch what the adults do and absorb that too. Which behaviors earn love and which earn punishment? Absorb, absorb, absorb. The problem is that this magnificent absorption mechanism does not discriminate. It cannot separate the useful from the damaging, the true from the false, the loving from the toxic. It takes everything, all of it, without judgment, without selection. So when your father said you would never amount to anything, your subconscious took it. When your mother's anxiety filled every room in the house like secondhand smoke, your subconscious breathed it in. When the teacher shamed you in front of the class for getting the wrong answer, your subconscious recorded. It is not safe to be visible. When you watched your parents fight about money, their voices sharp with panic and blame, your subconscious filed that under money means conflict. Wanting more is dangerous. You were not damaged by these experiences. You were programmed by them. I remember a woman who came to see me years ago in Los Angeles. She was remarkably intelligent, beautifully educated, and she had not been able to hold a job for longer than 8 months at any point in her adult life. She would get hired, always at an excellent company, always in an impressive role, And for the first few months, she would thrive. Her supervisors would praise her. Her colleagues would admire her. And then, without any conscious decision, she would begin to sabotage. She would miss deadlines. She would pick fights with her manager. She would stop showing up, and within 8 months she was gone. Again. This had happened more than a dozen times. When we explored her childhood, the pattern revealed itself almost immediately. Her mother had told her repeatedly throughout her girlhood, "People like us don't get to keep nice things. Enjoy it while it lasts." Her mother had not said this with malice. She had said it with the weariness of a woman whose own subconscious programming had taught her that good fortune is temporary and disappointment is inevitable. And her daughter had absorbed that program whole. Every time this woman started to succeed, every time something nice began to take root in her life, her subconscious executed its program. People like us don't get to keep nice things. And she would destroy it. Not because she wanted to, not because she was self-destructive, because she was obedient. Obedient to a recording she did not know was playing. You have recordings like this. Everyone does. Maybe yours does not say you cannot keep nice things. Maybe yours says you are not smart enough, not attractive enough, not lovable enough. Maybe yours says that money is hard to come by, that the world is dangerous, that people will hurt you if you let them close. Maybe yours says that rest is laziness, that your needs are too much, that you should be grateful for whatever scraps life throws your way. Whatever the specific recording, it has something in common with every other subconscious program ever installed in a human being. It felt like truth. It did not feel like a belief. It did not feel like an opinion. It felt like the way things are. And that is precisely what makes it so powerful and so dangerous. A belief you know you hold can be examined. You can argue with it, test it, and discard it if the evidence does not support it. But a belief that masquerades as reality, a belief so deeply embedded that it feels less like something you think and more like something you are, that belief will run your life without you ever suspecting it is there. Your subconscious mind is not your enemy. Please hear me on this. It is the most faithful servant you will ever have. It does exactly what it has been told to do with absolute precision, 24 hours a day. It takes whatever has been impressed upon it and produces the corresponding reality with mechanical reliability. Which means the question is not whether your subconscious can be reprogrammed. It can. It was designed to be programmed. The question is whether you will take responsibility for the programming, or continue to let a 5-year-old's absorption of a stressed parent's offhand comment dictate the boundaries of your adult life. The recordings are real. They are playing right now as you listen to these words. And somewhere in the back of your mind, one of those recordings is already telling you that this will not work for you. That other people can change, but you are different. That your situation is too far gone, too deeply rooted, too complicated. That recording is lying to you, and it is time to change the track. The lie of willpower. Every January, millions of people make the same mistake I made for decades. They try to override their subconscious programming with conscious effort. They set goals. They write affirmations on sticky notes. They sign up for gym memberships and buy organizers and delete social media apps and swear this year will be different. And for 2 weeks, maybe 3, if they are particularly determined, it is different. The alarm goes off at 5 and they leap out of bed. The salad replaces the sandwich. The savings account gets a deposit. The journal gets written in. Hope fills the chest like a warm balloon. And then, slowly at first, then all at once, the old gravity returns. The snooze button wins. The credit card comes back out. The journal collects dust. The gym clothes stay folded. And the person, this good, intelligent, earnest human being, concludes something devastating about themselves, that they lack discipline, that they are weak, that they are fundamentally incapable of change. But this conclusion is wrong. it is catastrophically wrong. And believing it causes more suffering than almost any other belief a person can hold, because it transforms a mechanical problem into an identity crisis. Let me explain what is actually happening when willpower fails, because understanding this will set you free from decades of unnecessary self-blame. Your conscious mind, the part of you that sets goals, makes decisions, analyzes information, operates at roughly 40 bits of information per second. That is its processing power. 40 bits. Your subconscious mind processes approximately 11 million bits per second. 11 million. That means your subconscious is processing information at a rate that is roughly 275,000 times faster and more powerful than your conscious mind. Now tell me, when you pit 40 bits of willpower against 11 million bits of subconscious programming, who do you honestly expect to win? This is not a battle of character. It is a mismatch of scale. It is like trying to hold back a river with your hands. You might manage it for a few seconds. You might even feel strong and proud while you are doing it. But the river does not get tired. Your arms do. And eventually, inevitably, predictably, the river wins. Not because you are weak, because the river is a river. I spent years trapped in this cycle myself. Years of resolving to be more confident, only to feel the familiar shrinking return by afternoon. Years of vowing to think abundantly, only to find myself anxiously checking my bank balance with the same constricted feeling in my stomach. Years of reading scripture about the infinite power of God and the abundance of the universe, while my subconscious mind quietly whispered, "Not for you, though." And the cruelest part was that every failure reinforced the very program I was trying to escape. Every time willpower collapsed, my subconscious recorded a new confirmation: you cannot change. Every abandoned resolution became evidence for the prosecution. The program grew stronger with every failed attempt to override it. This is why affirmations alone so rarely produce lasting results. Repeating "I am wealthy" 500 times while your subconscious holds a deep conviction that money is scarce and you are unworthy of it. That is not reprogramming. That is arguing with the ocean. The conscious mind speaks. The subconscious mind believes. And when speech contradicts belief, belief wins. Every single time. You know this from your own experience. You have stood in front of a mirror and told yourself you are beautiful, while something behind your sternum whispered liar. You have written "I am a money magnet" on your bathroom mirror and felt a flicker of embarrassment each time you saw it, because the deeper part of you did not believe a single word. You have listened to motivational speakers tell you that you just need to believe in yourself, and wondered why the instruction felt as useful as telling a drowning person to breathe air. Willpower is not worthless. Let me be precise about this. Willpower is an extraordinary gift. It is what gets you out of bed when the world feels heavy, what keeps you moving toward a goal when the evidence suggests you should quit. Willpower is the bridge, but it is not the destination. What willpower can do is keep you functioning while you reprogram your subconscious. It can maintain the structures of your life while the deeper work is being done. But willpower cannot do the job of reprogramming. You can white-knuckle your way through a budget while your subconscious still believes in scarcity. You can force yourself to approach people while your subconscious still believes you are unworthy of love. You can drag yourself to the gym while your subconscious still holds the image of you as someone who is out of shape, and you will exhaust yourself. Because you are trying to run a new program on top of the old one, and the old one is still consuming 95% of the processing power. The answer is not more willpower. The answer is not a better strategy, a stronger morning routine, a more detailed planner. The answer is to stop fighting the subconscious and start working with it. To stop trying to override the program from above and instead go to the place where the program lives and rewrite it. That is the difference between management and transformation. Management is what you have been doing, using conscious effort to contain, control, and compensate for subconscious beliefs that keep producing the same unwanted reality. Transformation is something else entirely. Transformation is changing the program itself so that the reality it produces is the one you actually want. And that transformation begins with understanding a principle I call subconscious saturation, the mechanism by which your deeper mind accepts a new belief as its operating instruction. Not because you argued it into submission, not because you repeated a phrase 10,000 times, but because you impressed it upon the subconscious with such depth, such feeling, such persistent conviction that the old program was dissolved and replaced. Let me show you how this works. The saturation principle. There is a reason I chose the word saturation, and I want you to understand exactly why. Think about a sponge. A dry sponge can sit on a counter for years. Hard, rigid, unchanging. Now pour water over it. At first, the water runs off the surface. The sponge resists. But if you keep pouring, if you hold that sponge under the faucet and let the water run over it and through it and into it without stopping, something shifts. The sponge begins to soften. The water starts to penetrate. And there comes a moment when the sponge has absorbed so much water that it cannot hold any more. It is saturated. The water is no longer on the sponge. The water is the sponge. That is exactly what happens when a new belief fully enters the subconscious mind. It does not sit on top of the old belief like a coat of fresh paint over rust. It replaces the old belief entirely. It becomes the new default, the new automatic, the new baseline from which your entire reality is generated. But, and this is where most people fail, saturation requires persistence past the point of apparent failure. The first time you pour a new idea into your subconscious, it will run off. The second time, the third time, the fifth time, it will still feel like nothing is happening. You will lie in bed at night, impressing a new belief upon your mind, and your conscious intellect will sneer. This is ridiculous. Nothing is changing. You are talking to yourself in the dark like a fool. And if you listen to that sneer, if you take the conscious mind's assessment as evidence that the subconscious has not been touched, you will stop pouring, and the sponge will harden again. This is the precise moment where most people quit. Not because the method does not work, but because the method works invisibly for a period before it works visibly. The subconscious is changing before you see evidence of the change. The sponge is softening before it feels soft. The old program is loosening its grip before the new program takes hold. Let me tell you about a man I worked with in New York many years ago. He was a salesman, capable, articulate, and absolutely terrified of success. He had been earning approximately the same income for 11 years, not because the market limited him, not because his company had a ceiling, but because every time his commission began to climb past a certain number, he would unconsciously pull back. He would miss calls. He would fail to follow up on leads he knew were promising. He would find reasons not to close. When he came to me, he had already tried everything the self-help world had to offer. Vision boards, morning mantras, goal-setting workshops. None of it had moved the needle, because none of them were reaching the place where the limitation actually lived. I asked him a simple question. What did your father earn? He looked at me, confused. About what I earn now, he said. Roughly the same number. And his father? About the same. 3 generations of men, all earning within a narrow range, not because of external economic constraints, but because the subconscious family program said, this is what men like us earn. This is the ceiling. Going beyond it is not just unlikely, it is somehow wrong, unsafe, a betrayal of where you came from. We began the saturation process. Every night, in the drowsy state between waking and sleeping, he would hold a single scene in his mind, his sales manager shaking his hand, congratulating him on a record quarter. He did not just picture it. He felt the handshake. He heard the words. He sensed the warmth of the room, the weight of the achievement, the quiet pride in his chest, not as fantasy, as fact, as something that had already happened. For 3 weeks, nothing changed. His sales numbers were flat. His conscious mind ridiculed the exercise nightly. He called me twice to say he was ready to quit. Both times I told him the same thing. The sponge is not yet saturated. Keep pouring. In the 4th week, something shifted. He did not decide to do anything differently. He did not implement a new sales strategy. He simply woke up one morning and felt different. The anxiety that had always accompanied his prospecting calls was quieter. The reluctance that had always slowed his follow-ups was thinner. He made calls he normally would have avoided. He closed a deal he normally would have fumbled. And by the end of that quarter, he had exceeded his usual income by 40%. Not through force, not through a new technique, through a new program. The saturation principle is not complicated, but it is demanding. It requires you to persist beyond the evidence of your senses. It requires you to keep impressing the new belief on your subconscious mind, even when your outer world has not yet reflected the change. It requires faith, not blind faith, but informed faith. The faith of someone who understands the mechanism and trusts the process, even when the results are still invisible. Here is what I need you to understand about how the subconscious accepts a new instruction. It does not respond to logic. You cannot convince it through rational argument. The subconscious responds to 2 things only: repetition and feeling. A new idea that is repeated with feeling in a state of mental receptivity will eventually be accepted by the subconscious as truth. And once accepted as truth, it has no choice but to produce the corresponding reality. The old belief was installed through repetition and feeling, the repetition of your childhood environment and the feeling of those early experiences. The new belief will be installed the same way, not by denying the old one, not by arguing with it, but by saturating the subconscious with something new until the new impression is deeper than the old one. This is not magic, this is mechanics. The same mechanics that install the limitation will install the liberation. The same process that built the prison will build the freedom. And it begins in a very specific state of mind, a state you enter naturally every single night. The night session, reprogramming before sleep every night, without exception, your mind passes through a doorway that most people ignore entirely. Think about what happens when you lie down to sleep. The rush of the day begins to fade. Your muscles release their tension. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts, which minutes ago were sharp and rapid and clamoring for attention, start to soften and blur around the edges. You enter a state that is neither fully awake nor fully asleep. A liminal zone, a threshold, a passage between 2 worlds. In psychology, this state is called the hypnagogic state. In clinical hypnosis, we call it the state of suggestibility. I call it the gateway, because that is precisely what it is. It is the one window in your day when the critical faculty of your conscious mind relaxes its guard, and the subconscious mind stands open, receptive, and profoundly impressionable. During your waking hours, your conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper. It evaluates, it judges, it argues. It says, I don't believe that, or that's not realistic, or I've tried this before and it didn't work. This critical function is useful during the day. It protects you from accepting every passing suggestion as true. But at night, as you drift towards sleep, this gatekeeper steps aside. And for a few precious minutes, you have direct access to the control room of your life. This is not theory, this is observable, measurable neuroscience. As you transition from beta brainwaves, the fast, analytical waves of waking consciousness, into alpha and then theta, Your brain literally enters the same state it was in during those first years of childhood when all your foundational programming was installed. You return every night to the state of maximum receptivity, and whatever you impress upon your mind in those minutes before sleep sinks deep. Now here is the critical question. What are you currently feeding your subconscious during this window? Be honest with yourself. What occupies your mind in the last 15 minutes before you fall asleep? For most people, the answer is devastating. They are reviewing everything that went wrong during the day. They are rehearsing tomorrow's anxiety. They are scrolling through social media, absorbing other people's curated performances of happiness. They are replaying arguments, nursing grievances, marinating in regret. They are watching the news, that relentless stream of catastrophe, conflict, and manufactured fear, and letting it be the last thing their subconscious absorbs before the gates close for the night. And then they wonder why they wake up anxious. They wonder why their dreams are troubled. They wonder why their default emotional state is one of tension and unease, rather than peace and expectancy. You are not a passive recipient of your mental state. You are the gardener, and the sleepy state is the soil. Whatever seeds you plant in those moments before sleep will grow, not because you want them to, but because that is what soil does with seeds. It does not evaluate whether the seed is beneficial or harmful, beautiful or ugly. It grows whatever is planted. Here is how to use this window deliberately. First, choose one specific outcome you want to experience, not a list of 10 things, not a vague wish for a better life. One clear, specific, concrete outcome. A promotion, a healed relationship, a sum of money, a state of health. One thing. Clarity is essential because the subconscious responds to precision. A vague instruction produces a vague result. Second, construct a short scene, no longer than 30 seconds in your imagination, that implies the fulfillment of that outcome, not the process of achieving it, the end result. If you want the promotion, see yourself sitting in the new office. Feel the chair beneath you. If you want to heal a relationship, see yourself laughing with that person over dinner. If you want financial abundance, see yourself looking at a bank statement that shows the number you desire and feel the relief that floods your body. The scene must be experienced from within, not observed from outside. You are not watching a movie of yourself. You are in the scene. Your hands are your hands. Your eyes see what they would see. You are there. Third, and this is the step that separates transformation from daydreaming, loop the scene. Play it again and again and again, not with effort, not with strain, with the gentle, drowsy repetition of a lullaby. You are not forcing the subconscious to accept this scene. You are offering it over and over in a state where it is naturally inclined to receive. Most people will tell me they fall asleep before completing even 2 or 3 loops. Good. That is exactly the point. You want to fall asleep in the scene. You want the last conscious impression of your day to be the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Because whatever you fall asleep feeling is what your subconscious will work with all night long. 8 hours of subconscious processing devoted to making real the feeling you planted in those final moments. I practiced this myself, night after night, during a period of my life when my circumstances were bleak. My finances were strained. My health was poor. My future felt uncertain. And every night, in that drowsy state, I held a single image, myself standing behind a lectern, addressing a packed auditorium, speaking about the power of the subconscious mind. I felt the wood of the lectern under my palms. I heard the rustle of the audience. I sensed the conviction in my own voice. That scene felt absurd at the time. My waking reality contradicted it completely. But the subconscious does not care about your current circumstances. It cares about the impression you give it. And I gave it that impression every night with as much feeling as I could summon in my sleepy state. Within months, opportunities began to appear that my conscious mind had not planned or anticipated. A lecture invitation here, a published article there, a connection that opened a door I did not know existed. The night session is not optional. It is the foundation of everything else we will discuss. Miss a night and you lose nothing. One missed night will not undo your progress. But make it consistent, and you will begin to feel, within weeks, a shift in your baseline reality that no amount of daytime effort could produce. The day is for living. The night is for becoming. The mirror of your outer world. Look around you. Everything you see, every circumstance, every condition, every relationship, every number in your bank account is a reflection, not a punishment, not a reward, not a coincidence, a reflection. Your outer world is a mirror held up to your inner world with perfect, sometimes brutal fidelity. This is the principle that most people resist more fiercely than any other, because accepting it means accepting a level of responsibility that feels almost unbearable. If my outer world is a mirror of my inner world, then I cannot blame the economy for my poverty. I cannot blame my ex-partner for my loneliness. I cannot blame my genetics for my health. I cannot point at the world and say, that is why my life looks this way. Because the world is only showing me what I have been projecting onto it from within. Let me be careful here, because this principle is often distorted into something cruel. People twist it into victim blaming. If you're sick, you must have thought yourself sick. If you're poor, it's your own fault. That is not what I am saying, and I want to be precise about the distinction. You did not consciously choose the beliefs that were installed in your subconscious during childhood. You did not voluntarily select the programs that are running your life right now. In that sense, your current circumstances are not your fault, but they are your responsibility. Fault looks backward and assigns blame. Responsibility looks forward and assumes power. And right now, I am asking you to assume your power. Let me give you an example that made this principle undeniable to me. Years ago, a woman came to one of my lectures. She was in her mid-50s and she had been married 3 times. All 3 marriages had ended in betrayal. 3 different men, 3 different decades, 3 different geographic locations, and the same devastating outcome. Her first husband had lied to her about his finances. Her second husband had been unfaithful. Her third husband had deceived her about his past. She was understandably angry. She was understandably heartbroken. And she was absolutely convinced that she was simply unlucky in love, that some perverse cosmic lottery kept matching her with dishonest men. But when we examined her childhood, a different picture emerged. Her father, a man she had adored, had maintained a secret life that was revealed only after his death. The discovery had shattered her as a young woman, and the lesson her subconscious had extracted from that devastation was this: the men I love will deceive me. That was not a thought she held consciously. She did not walk around thinking men are liars. She thought she believed in love. She thought she entered each marriage with hope and openness. But beneath her conscious optimism, her subconscious held a deep, unshakable conviction that the men she loved would ultimately prove dishonest. And so her subconscious, faithful servant that it is, produced exactly that result. 3 times. Did she attract dishonest men? In a sense, yes, but not through some mystical force, through the mechanics of perception and selection. Her subconscious, operating below her awareness, was drawn to subtle cues of dishonesty that her conscious mind could not detect. Her subconscious recognized the familiar pattern and mistook familiarity for attraction. She did not choose these men despite their dishonesty. She chose them because of something in their energy that matched her deepest expectation. When she changed the inner belief, when she used the saturation process to install a new subconscious conviction that she was worthy of honest love and that honest men were naturally drawn to her, her outer world shifted accordingly. She did not simply find a better man. She became a woman who could only be attracted to and attractive to a different kind of partner. This is how the mirror works. It does not lie. It cannot lie. It can only reflect. And here is the part that should fill you with hope rather than dread. If your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, then changing your inner world must change your outer world. It is not possible for the mirror to remain the same when the person standing in front of it has changed. Change your subconscious beliefs about money, and your financial circumstances must shift. Change your subconscious beliefs about your body, and your health must respond. Change your subconscious beliefs about your worth, and the people who appear in your life must be different. I have seen this happen so many times that I no longer experience it as remarkable. A man saturates his subconscious with the conviction that he is a successful author, and within a year he has a publishing contract he did not pursue through conventional channels. The opportunity came to him. A woman saturates her subconscious with the feeling of perfect health, and her physician reports improvements that the medical team cannot explain through the treatment alone. A couple saturates their shared consciousness with the image of a harmonious home, and the arguments that had become daily occurrences simply stop, not because they are suppressed, but because the underlying tension that produced them has dissolved. This is not wishful thinking. This is cause and effect. The inner world is the cause, the outer world is the effect. And no amount of rearranging the effects will change anything until you address the cause. Most people spend their entire lives trying to rearrange the mirror. They change jobs, change cities, change partners, change wardrobes, change diets, and they are baffled when the same fundamental patterns keep showing up in every new context. Of course they do. The mirror has not changed because the person in front of it has not changed. You can move to a new city, but you take your subconscious with you. You can leave a relationship, but your subconscious beliefs about love will shape the next one identically. Stop rearranging the mirror. Start changing what it reflects. The second mind. Feeling as the language. Most people who attempt to change their subconscious make a fundamental error that guarantees failure. And the error is this. They try to reprogram with words. They repeat affirmations. They chant mantras. They write intentions in journals. And they do all of this from the neck up, intellectually, verbally, linguistically, as if the subconscious mind were a reader waiting for the right sentence to arrive on the page. But the subconscious mind does not read. It does not process language the way your conscious mind does. The subconscious mind operates in a different language entirely, and that language is feeling. Think about how your most powerful memories are stored. You do not remember your childhood home as a list of facts. 3 bedrooms, white exterior, oak tree in the front yard. You remember how it felt. The warmth of the kitchen on winter mornings, the particular quality of light that came through your bedroom window, the feeling of safety or the feeling of dread that greeted you when you opened the front door. The memories that shaped you most profoundly are not stored as information. They are stored as felt experience. And the subconscious programs that run your life are stored the same way. Your limiting belief about money is not stored as a sentence. It is stored as a feeling, a tightness in the chest, a constriction in the throat, an anxious hum in the stomach. Your belief about your unworthiness is not stored as a logical proposition. It is stored as the hollow feeling that opens up inside you when someone offers you a compliment you cannot receive. This is why affirmations spoken without feeling are almost useless. Saying, "I am wealthy" in a monotone voice while your body feels the familiar tension of financial anxiety, that is not reprogramming, that is contradiction. Your words are saying one thing, your feeling is saying another, and the subconscious will always, without exception, believe the feeling over the word. I learned this lesson the hard way. For months, early in my practice, I repeated affirmations of health and abundance with perfect discipline and zero results. I said the words, I visualized the scenes, I followed every technique I had read about, and nothing moved. My circumstances remained stubbornly identical to what they had been before I started. It was only when I stopped focusing on what I was saying and started focusing on what I was feeling that the breakthrough came. The words were scaffolding, useful, but not the building itself. The building, the actual structure that the subconscious would accept as a new blueprint, was the feeling, the felt sense of already having what I desired, not the future hope of it, not the anxious wanting of it. The present tense, full body feeling of it being real and done and mine. There is a vast difference between wanting something and feeling that you have it. Wanting is a declaration of absence. When you say, I want more money, what does your body actually feel? It feels the lack of money. It feels the gap between where you are and where you wish you were. And the subconscious, receiving that feeling of lack, faithfully produces more lack. You are saturating your subconscious with the feeling of not having, and it delivers exactly that. But when you shift from wanting to having, when you allow yourself, even briefly, to feel what it would feel like if the desire were already fulfilled, something extraordinary happens. Your body changes, your posture shifts, your breathing deepens, your facial muscles relax. There is a warmth, a rightness, a quiet satisfaction that spreads through your chest when you genuinely feel the wish fulfilled. And that feeling, that specific, embodied, unmistakable feeling is what the subconscious recognizes as an instruction. Let me make this practical. Sit still for a moment and think about someone you love deeply. Not the concept of loving them. Actually feel the love. Feel it in your chest. Feel the warmth. Feel the tenderness. Notice what happens in your body. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. Something softens behind your eyes. Now, hold that feeling and imagine directing it toward yourself, toward the version of you who has already achieved what you desire. Feel the love and pride you would feel for that person. Feel the relief. Feel the gratitude. Let it be real in your body, even if your mind protests that it has not happened yet. That protest is your conscious mind doing its job, evaluating reality, noting discrepancies. Let it protest. You are not trying to convince your conscious mind. You are bypassing it. You are speaking directly to the subconscious in the only language it understands, the language of felt experience. This is why the night session is so powerful. In the sleepy state, the conscious mind's protest grows quiet, the critical faculty dim. And the feeling you hold in those drowsy minutes does not have to fight its way past intellectual objections. It sinks straight in, like water into loosened soil. But you can practice during the day too. Whenever you catch yourself in a state of worry or anxiety or lack, whenever the old program is running hot, you can interrupt it, not by arguing with it, not by telling yourself to stop worrying, but by deliberately shifting your feeling. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. Recall your scene. Feel the handshake, the congratulation, the bank statement, the embrace, whatever your specific scene contains. Let the feeling wash through you. And then open your eyes and go on with your day. You are not pretending. You are practicing. There is an enormous difference. Pretending is denial, a thin veil thrown over reality. Practicing is deliberate impression, the intentional cultivation of a new feeling that will, through repetition and saturation, become your default state. The language of the subconscious is feeling. Learn to speak it fluently, and there is nothing your deeper mind will not do for you. Burning the old blueprint, nobody tells you that becoming a new person feels at first like dying. That sounds dramatic, and I mean it too. Because the resistance you will encounter when you begin to restructure your subconscious is not mild discomfort. It is not a minor inconvenience. It is in many cases a full-scale identity rebellion, and you need to be prepared for it, or it will stop you in your tracks. Here is why. Your subconscious mind does not only store beliefs, it stores your identity. Your sense of who you are, the person you recognize when you look in the mirror, the voice you hear when you talk to yourself, the role you play in your family, your workplace, your social circle, all of this is maintained by the subconscious. Your identity is, in a very real sense, a subconscious construction. And when you begin to dissolve the beliefs that make up that construction, the subconscious interprets it as a threat to your survival. Not a threat to your physical survival, a threat to your psychological survival. And the subconscious does not distinguish clearly between the two. Losing who you are feels to the deeper mind very much like losing your life. And so the subconscious will fight back hard. This fight takes predictable form. The first is doubt, massive, suffocating doubt. After 2 weeks of nightly saturation, a voice in your head will say, "This is not working. You are wasting your time." Real change does not happen this way. This doubt will feel so reasonable, so measured, so grounded in evidence that you will be tempted to treat it as wisdom rather than resistance. Do not. It is the old program defending itself, nothing more. The second form is emotional upheaval. Old memories will surface. Old wounds will throb. You may feel inexplicably sad or angry or afraid for no reason your conscious mind can identify. This is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are doing something right. The old blueprint is burning, and burning things produce smoke. The emotions rising to the surface are the smoke of a structure being dismantled. The third form is external disruption. People around you will react to the change, often negatively. Friends who were comfortable with the old you will feel threatened by the emerging you. Family members who have built their own identity around their relationship with the old you will push back, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes with shocking force. You may hear, "You've changed. What's gotten into you? You think you're better than us now?" These reactions are not evidence that you are on the wrong path. They are evidence that you are leaving an orbit that others depended on. I went through every one of these stages. When I left the priesthood to pursue my study of the subconscious mind, the people closest to me responded as if I had announced my own death. My family was bewildered. My colleagues were contemptuous. My mentor, a man I revered, told me I was throwing away a life of sacred service for the pursuit of secular nonsense. And inside, a part of me agreed with all of them. A part of me was terrified that they were right, that I was making the worst decision of my life, that I would end up alone and discredited and hollow. But there was another part, quieter, deeper, steadier, that knew the old blueprint no longer fit. It was like wearing shoes that had been the right size at 15 and were now crushing my feet at 35. The shoes had not changed, I had grown. And continuing to wear them was not loyalty, it was self-mutilation. You will reach a moment in this process where the old and the new coexist within you, and it will be deeply uncomfortable. You will feel pulled in two directions simultaneously. Part of you will want to retreat to the familiar, the known pain, the predictable limitation, the identity that may be small but at least feels like yours. Part of you will feel the pull of something larger, something truer, something that terrifies you precisely because it fits. Stay with the terror. The terror is not a warning, it is a compass. It is pointing you toward the version of yourself that your subconscious has been hiding from you, the version that the old programming could not contain. When the doubt comes, saturate more. When the emotions rise, let them pass through you without clutching them or pushing them away. When the people in your life react with confusion or hostility, Hold your ground with compassion, compassion for them, because their reaction is their own subconscious defending its construction, and compassion for yourself, because you are doing the hardest thing a human being can do. You are choosing to die before you die. You are choosing to let the old self dissolve so that the new self can emerge, not a patched-up version of who you were, not a slightly improved model of the same basic design, someone genuinely new, someone whose baseline reality, whose default thoughts, default feelings, default expectations has been restructured from the foundation up. The old blueprint must burn. Let it burn. Stand close enough to feel the heat and far enough not to be consumed by it. What emerges from those ashes is not someone you need to become. It is someone you have always been, buried under decades of programming that told you to be smaller, safer, and less than what you are. The 80-minute protocol, your nightly practice. What I want to give you now is not a concept, it is a practice. Something you will do. Not read about, not think about, not file away for some day, but do, starting the moment your head touches the pillow for the very first time after hearing these words. The 80-minute protocol is built on the principles we have discussed, but it organizes them into a nightly practice so clear and so simple that there is no room for confusion. Confusion is the enemy of follow-through. If a practice requires you to remember 14 steps and consult a manual, you will abandon it within a week. This practice has 3 phases, and each one flows naturally into the next. Phase 1 is what I call the clearing. It takes roughly 20 minutes. When you lie down to sleep, your mind is typically buzzing with the residue of the day. Conversations, frustrations, tasks undone, worries about tomorrow. If you try to impress a new belief on your subconscious while all of this mental noise is still active, it is like trying to plant a seed in soil that is covered with debris. The seed cannot take root, so you clear first. Close your eyes and begin with your body, not your thoughts, your body. Start at the crown of your head and slowly move your attention downward. Wherever you find tension, the jaw, the shoulders, the stomach, the hips, do not try to force it away. Simply notice it, acknowledge it, and then imagine breathing warmth into that spot, the way sunlight warms a stone. You are not fighting the tension. You are meeting it with attention, and attention dissolves what force cannot. As your body softens, your mind will begin to quiet on its own. Thoughts will still arise. Let them. They are the last sparks of a fire that is dying down. Do not engage with them, and do not resist them. Watch them the way you would watch clouds passing across an open sky, present, noticed, and released. Phase 2 is the impression. This takes approximately 40 minutes, though in practice you may fall asleep during this phase, which is perfectly desirable. Once your body is settled and your mind is quiet, bring your scene to mind, the one specific scene that implies the fulfillment of your chosen outcome, not the journey, the destination, not the process, the completion. Enter the scene as a participant. See through your own eyes. Feel what your body would feel. Hear what your ears would hear. Make it vivid. Make it sensory. Make it real. And then loop it. Play the scene from beginning to end. 30 seconds, no more. And then play it again. Gently. Without strain. Each repetition presses the impression a fraction deeper into the subconscious soil. The feeling is more important than the image. If the scene becomes blurry, that is fine, hold the feeling. If you lose the visual entirely, that is fine, keep feeling. The subconscious receives feeling first and imagery second. As long as the emotional tone of the fulfilled wish is present, the impression is being made. Do not monitor your progress during this phase. Do not ask yourself, is this working? That question activates the critical conscious mind, which is exactly the faculty you are trying to bypass. Simply feel, and repeat, and let the drowsiness carry you deeper. If you fall asleep during this phase, and many nights you will, you have succeeded. Falling asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the most powerful impression you can make. Phase 3 is what I call the gratitude seal. This takes only a few minutes, and it applies on nights when you have completed the impression without falling asleep. Before you allow yourself to drift off, spend a few minutes in a state of genuine gratitude, not for what you want, but for what already is. Gratitude for your breath. Gratitude for the bed beneath you. Gratitude for the fact that your mind is capable of being restructured, that you are not condemned to repeat the past, that the same power that built the old program can build a new one. Gratitude is not a pleasantry, it is a frequency. And the frequency of gratitude is the closest vibrational match to the frequency of receiving. When you are genuinely grateful, you are telling your subconscious, I have received. I am satisfied. Life is generous to me. And the subconscious responds to that impression the way it responds to every impression, by producing more of whatever feeling has been saturated into it. The 80 minutes are not rigid. Some nights the clearing will take 10 minutes. Some nights it will take 30. Some nights you will fall asleep before you even begin the impression. This is not failure. There is no wrong way to do this practice, as long as you do it. Consistency is infinitely more important than perfection. A mediocre night session practiced daily will produce results that a perfect session practiced occasionally never will. Over the coming weeks, you will notice changes. They will not arrive as dramatic, sudden revelation. They will arrive as subtle shifts, a thought you would not have had before, an impulse that surprises you, an opportunity that appears as if from nowhere. You will make a decision that the old you would never have made, and you will not understand where the courage came from. It came from the new program, running quietly beneath the surface, doing what it was designed to do. Trust the process, water the seed, and let the subconscious mind do what it has always done. Produce reality from the blueprint it has been given. The person you were always meant to become. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine something with me. Not a fantasy, not a daydream, something realer than that. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, but not as the person you were yesterday. The alarm sounds, and instead of the familiar heaviness, there is a quiet hum of anticipation in your chest. Your first thought is not dread. It is not the catalog of problems that usually greets you before your feet touch the floor. Your first thought is, something good is unfolding, and you believe it. Not because you are forcing yourself to think positively, because you feel it. It is your baseline. It is where your mind naturally rests. You get out of bed and catch your reflection. The face that looks back at you is the same face, the same features, the same lines carved by years of living, but something behind the eyes is different. There is a steadiness there that was not there before, a quiet authority, the look of someone who is no longer at war with themselves. This is what subconscious restructuring looks like from the inside. It does not look like becoming someone else. It looks like becoming yourself, finally, after decades of being someone else's version of you, the anxious version, the limited version, the version that played small because a recording from childhood said that small was safe. The person you were always meant to become is not a stranger. When you meet them, and you will meet them through this work, you will not feel the shock of encountering someone foreign. You will feel the ache of recognition. The way you feel when you return to a place you loved as a child and realize you had been homesick for it all along without knowing what you were missing. I have watched this transformation in hundreds of people. The businessman who was terrified of public speaking and now addresses audiences of thousands, not with rehearsed confidence, but with genuine ease. The woman who spent 30 years believing she was unlovable and now exists in a relationship so tender it makes her weep with gratitude. The young man whose family told him he would never amount to anything, who now runs a company that employs the very people who doubted him, not out of revenge, but out of a generosity that only became possible when his subconscious stopped believing in scarcity. These people did not acquire new talents. They did not become smarter or luckier or more connected. They became aligned. The person they were on the surface finally matched the person they were in the depths. And when that alignment happens, when the conscious and the subconscious are finally pointing in the same direction, the amount of energy that is released is almost unimaginable. All the energy that was previously consumed by the internal war, by the conscious mind pulling one way and the subconscious pulling the other, that energy suddenly becomes available for living. That is what awaits you, not perfection, not a life without difficulty, but a life in which your default state is one of trust rather than fear, expansion rather than contraction, possibility rather than limitation. A life in which the foundation matches the structure you want to build on top of it. You came here carrying a blueprint you did not write. You will leave here with the tools to write a new one, not with willpower, not with positive thinking, with the most powerful force available to any human being, the deliberate, sustained, feeling-saturated impression of a new reality upon the subconscious mind. Your subconscious has been waiting for this. It has been waiting for you to take the pen from the hand of a frightened child and begin to write your own instruction. It does not resist you. It never has. It has only ever done what it was told. And now, finally, you are going to tell it something different. You are going to tell it the truth about who you are. Not the truth your parents believed. Not the truth your culture imposed. Not the truth that fear whispered in the dark hours of your childhood. The real truth. The truth that has been waiting underneath all of it. Patient and indestructible for your entire life. Start now. Start with 80 minutes. Start with one scene, one feeling, one night, and watch what happens when the foundation finally holds.